Next principle is the principle of life, survival, and development. So, this principle just means that every child has an inherent right to life, and governments must ensure their survival and holistic development by providing essential services, protecting them from harm, and upholding all related rights in a safe and nurturing environment. So, what are the rights of the children from the UNCRC under the principle of life, survival, and development? First in the list is Article 6 of the Convention, which states that every child has a natural and fundamental right to live. So, they are also responsible for doing everything they can to support the child's survival and overall development, whether physically, emotionally, and socially, through appropriate care, protection, and access to essential services. Also, Article 7 states that every child must be officially registered right after birth and has the right to a name, nationality, and the right to know and be cared by their parents. Article 8 states that it is also under the principle of life, survival, and development because it states here that protecting a child's right to identity, including their name, nationality, and family ties, is essential to principle of life, survival, and development as it ensures their legal recognition. Okay, next is Article 17, which ensures the children have access to diverse and enriching information, supports the principle of life, survival, and development by nurturing their intellectual growth, emotional resilience, and moral understanding. Next is Article 19. This is also under the principle of life, survival, and development because protecting children from physical or mental harm, abuse, neglect, and exploitation, especially while under adult care, upholds the principle of life, survival, and development by ensuring their safety, emotional stability, and access to nurturing environments essential for healthy growth. Article 22 provides the children seeking or holding refugee status with proper protection and humanitarian support, directly upholds the principle of life, survival, and development by ensuring that they have access to safe essential services and the conditions necessary for their physical, emotional, and social growth despite the displacement. Next is Article 23, upholding the rights of children with mental or physical disability to dignity, self-reliance, and community participation directly supports the principle of life, survival, and development by ensuring they receive tailored care, inclusive opportunities, and essential services to foster their holistic growth. Article 24 also falls under the principle of life, survival, and development, ensuring the children's access to the highest attainable standard of health, medical care, and nutrition directly supports the principle of life, survival, and development by safeguarding their physical well-being and reducing mortality. Article 26, providing children with access to social security and insurance benefits. It supports the principle of life, survival, and development by ensuring they receive fair, needs-based support that promotes their health, stability, and overall well-being. Article 27 also falls under the principle of life, survival, and development, ensuring that every child has an adequate standard of living, supports the principle of life, survival, and development by promoting their holistic growth, with families providing care and governments offering essential support to uphold their well-being. Article 28 states that children have the right to free and compulsory primary education, with governments responsible for progressively ensuring equal access to secondary and higher education based on ability. Article 29 states that education that nurtures the children's personality, talent, values, and respect for diversity directly support the principle of life, survival, and development by empowering them to grow holistically and to thrive as a compassionate and capable members of the society. Article 31, supporting children's right to rest, play, and cultural participation. It promotes the principle of life, survival, and development by nurturing their physical health, emotional well-being, creativity, and social growth in a balanced and enriching environment. Article 32 also falls under the principle of life, survival, and development as protecting children from economic exploitation and harmful labor upholds the principle of life, survival, and development by ensuring their health, education, and overall growth are not compromised. Article 33 is under the principle of life, survival, and development as protecting children from illegal drug use and exploitation in drug-related activities, uphold the principle of life, survival, and development by safeguarding their health, security, and potential to grow in a safe and nurturing environment. Article 38 falls under the principles of life, survival, and development by ensuring expert oversight and accountability in how countries uphold children's rights and create conditions for their holistic growth and well-being. Okay, so what are the Philippine domestic laws that are related to the children's UN rights under the Philippine or under the principles of life, survival, and development? First is Article 2, Section 13 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution. So this recognizes the vital role of youth in nation building and it promotes their physical, moral, spiritual, intellectual, and social well-being. So this supports the holistic development. Article 15, Section 3 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, it supports the principles of life, survival, and development by mandating the state to protect children from harm and ensure they receive the care and support necessary for their holistic growth and well-being. Article 220 of the Civil Code of the Philippines also supports the principle of life, survival, and development by requiring parents to ensure their children's education, upbringing, and moral guidance, which are vital for their holistic growth and well-being. Presidential Decree 603, or the Child and Youth Welfare Code, this supports the principle of life, survival, and development by affirming every child's right to a healthy birth, nurturing family, environment, and comprehensive growth across physical, emotional, and intellectual dimension. Republic Act 7658, this supports the principle of life, survival, and development excuse me, by protecting children under 15 from premature labor, ensuring their safety, education, and healthy growth are prioritized over economic exploitation. Next is RA 7600 or the Rooming In and Breastfeeding Act of 1992. Same with RA 10028, expanded the Breastfeeding Promotion Act. So this supports the principles of life, survival, and development by ensuring accessible breastfeeding facilities that promote infant nutrition, maternal care, and healthy early childhood growth. RA 10533, the Enhanced Basic Education Act of K to, or the K to 12. So it expands the access to quality education, supporting the intellectual and social development. Lastly, RA 8972 or the Solo Parents Act. So it provides support to solo parents to ensure their children's survival and development through access to health, education, and livelihood services. So obviously, all these domestic laws support the principle of life, survival, and development. The last principle is the principle of inclusion and participation. So this principle recognizes the children as active right holders with the ability to express their views on matters that affects them. So it marks a shift from seeing children as passive recipient of protection to acknowledging their evolving autonomy and capacity to contribute meaningfully to decisions about their life. So this principle affirms children's right to freely express their views on matters affecting them, requiring governments to ensure inclusive environments that respect their evolving autonomy, dignity, and meaningful participation in decision making. What are the rights of the children from the UNCRC under the principle of inclusion and participation? First is the Article 12. So this provision reflects the principle of inclusion and participation by guaranteeing children the right to freely express their views in all matters affecting them, with those views given appropriate weight and representation in the decision-making processes. Next is Article 13. This reflects the principle of inclusion and participation by empowering the children to freely express themselves and access information through diverse forms, ensuring their voices are heard and valued in all aspects of life. Article 14 also reflects the principles of inclusion and participation by recognizing the children's evolving capacity to form and practice their own beliefs, ensuring their voices and identities are respected with legal boundaries that protect the broader community. Article 15, which states that children have the right to gather with others from groups and participate in peaceful meetings or protests. So it reflects the principle of inclusion and participation by affirming the children's right to peacefully assemble and engage collectively, empowering them to express shared views and take part in civic life within lawful and respectful boundaries. Lastly, the Article 42, it reflects the principle of inclusion and participation by requiring the government to actively educate both the children and the adults about the children's right, empowering the young people to engage meaningfully in society and to advocate for their own well-being. So, what are the Philippine domestic laws that are related to the children's UN rights under the principle of inclusion and participation? First is Article 2, Section 13 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution. It reflects the principle of inclusion and participation by recognizing the youth as the key contributors to the nation building and affirming their right to be actively involved in shaping a just and progressive society. Article 15, Section 3 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, it also reflects the principle of inclusion and participation by affirming the state's responsibility to protect children's rights while implicitly recognizing their agency in decisions that impact their well-being. Article 3, Section 4 of the 1987 Constitution, it reflects the principle of inclusion and participation by guaranteeing the children's right to freedom of speech and expression, enabling them to share their views and engage meaningfully in society within safe and age-appropriate setting. Article 213 of the Family Code of the Philippines reflects the principle of inclusion and participation by recognizing a child's right to express their constitutional preference, affirming their evolving capacity to contribute decisions that directly affect their life. Article 12 of the Revised Penal Code also falls under the principle of inclusion and participation by acknowledging children's developmental needs and exempting them from criminal liability, thereby creating space for their voices to be heard in restorative justice processes. Republic Act 11650. So this law establishes inclusive learning environments for children with disabilities, ensuring their full participation in mainstream education and community life. So this reflects the principle of inclusion and participation by ensuring that children with disabilities have equal access to mainstream education and community life, empowering them to engage fully and meaningfully in society. Republic Act 9344, so it promotes the restorative justice and child participation in legal processes, recognizing their evolving capacities and right to be heard. It reflects the principles of inclusion and participation by promoting restorative justice and ensuring that the children are actively heard and involved in legal processes. PD 603, again, the Child and Youth Welfare Code, this affirms the child's right to express views freely and participate in matters affecting them. Republic Act 8371, it ensures that indigenous children are included in cultural, educational, and community decisions respecting their identity and voice. Republic Act 10533, it enhanced the Basic Education Act. Again, the K-12, this encourages learner-centered approaches and student participation in shaping educational experiences. It reflects the principle of inclusion and participation by promoting the learning centered education that empowers the students to actively engage in shaping their learning experiences and educational journey. So all these Philippine domestic laws falls under the principle of the inclusion and participation. This wraps up the first part of our activity on outlining and critiquing the rights of children as citizens. Thank you.